Hello and welcome back to RGU Refreshers Week 2021. We hope you've had a great week and been able to take part in some of our virtual events and activities. Refreshers Week might be drawing to a close for this year, but before it does, for the next 30 minutes, I'm joined by our panel that you can see on the screen at the moment to discuss RGU's response to COVID-19 and how things will be looking as we begin semester 2. So first, let's introduce the panel. I'll go first. My name's Ross Leaven and I'm Student President of Communication and Democracy. We'll start with you, Phil.
Hi, I'm Filippo Antoniazzi, Director of Student Life.
Veronica.
Hi, I'm Veronica Strachan. I'm the Assistant Chief Academic Officer.
Jordan.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Moore, Student President of Sport and Physical Activity.
And last but not least, Emmanuel.
I'm Emmanuel Okoye, President for Education and Welfare.
So thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. How are you all?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So to anyone watching, if you have any questions for any members of the panel, please use the comments section to put these to us. And we have some pre-prepared topics that we will be discussing through, but we'll do our best to answer any questions that come up throughout. So I suppose it's maybe worth starting with a quick update around the return to campus. Obviously, for the majority of students, that's not possible at the moment, and the majority will continue to be working from home for the next few weeks. But I wonder if either you, Phil, or Veronica, maybe just want to give a quick update about where we are, what students are on campus, and how things are looking at the moment.
So I could go first, Veronica, and then you'll probably have more detail to come in. So everyone should have received their timetables over quite a while ago. That really we're at the stage where it's only essential teaching on campus, and that for the foreseeable future, so certainly for the next couple of weeks or so, everyone should be familiar with their timetables, and if they had to be on campus, they would already know about that. We've also got in place lateral flow testing, so that if anyone is coming on campus, we've got the mechanism for students to become tested, so that they know they're safe and that they're safe for the rest of the community should they be coming on to campus. So the majority of those that are coming on are either in preparation for placement or essential teaching. That means that they have to do in order to progress. And that everyone should have that information. I don't know whether you want to add, Veronica.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, Phil. So for the benefit of those that have maybe just recently joined the university, of course, we were hoping that this return to this semester would have been different. And we had originally teaching plans that would have had a bit more on campus at this stage. However, we've had to adjust in light of changed guidance from the Scottish Government. So that means we've pushed back off of campus some students, for example, like some of our art students or surveying students, whom ordinarily we might have been thinking would have been coming back on around this stage. So at this point in time, it's only essential student teaching that's happening on campus. And we've defined that so that it's essential, as Phil said, but we need it to meet some PSRB or requirement where we need to use facilities that are only available on campus. So it is kind of very limited. We do, however, still have some space for students to come on campus for personal study, and of course, as well as being on campus for essential purposes, there is that well-being part. So, students can come on campus for studying for a well-being reason. There are limited spaces available, and there is a process to apply for that. So, as we all hope, matters will increase or get better sooner, and as they get better, we will be able to increase the number of people able to come onto campus and use the facilities. So understandably, as the intro said, Refreshers Week and at a distance, but still together. And I think that's really the important bit, is planning to work together to keep the community spirit going. While these few weeks, many of us will be mainly at home. And indeed, I think we're all sitting at our homes just now, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. And Jordan, while we're on the topic of all kind of coming together, but then also the on-campus facilities, we did touch on it in our session this morning, but you maybe want to give a quick update from RGU Sport, but then also from what our sports clubs and some of our other student activities have been up to.
Yeah, of course. So RGU Sport as a facility is closed in line with local restrictions, national restrictions. So there's no access to the building at the moment, and therefore no access to kind of training for sports clubs or gym access, anything like that. But all operations have been moved online. So RGU Sport are offering all of their classes online that would normally take place in the building under revised timetables that can all be found over on RGU Sport website. Similarly, our sports clubs are therefore not able to train, not able to compete, but they are all obviously welcome to take out free student gym membership and access those classes, but also come together as sports clubs and take part in online activities, some of which, as we mentioned this morning, will be released next week, in terms of kind of replacing that competitive element that's no longer existing, and making sure our club community kind of still is very much there and there for support for students as well.
That's great, thanks, Jordan. And obviously for our societies and some of our student groups, we are in a very similar situation in that it's fully virtual. Obviously societies don't usually have that same level of competition and things like that specifically, but they can't get together and do the activities they usually do. And I think it has been great to see how all of our student activity committees right across the spectrum have worked to put on innovative online activities and not just try and replace the ones that they usually do, but really look at alternatives. And Emmanuel, we'll come over to you. I wonder if you maybe want to touch on some of our student networks, and then also we can go on to some of the universities and the union support services.
Yeah, thank you, Ross. Just quickly, the student networks really, like the societies and student groups as well, have also had to completely be virtual. Just following the guidance and the regulations around COVID coming from not just from the government but also from the university. So it's really been interesting to see. I'll make a quick reference to even last semester when we managed to deliver Black History Month as a campaign, and managed to deliver that completely virtual and keeping everyone safe. So it's the same vein. We have a couple of them: the Black Liberation Network, the Women in STEM Network, and some new ones coming up. But it's just been really interesting to see how these activities have been creatively evolved over time. So it's been really good.
Thank you, Emmanuel. And in terms of the university support service and what's available, and the union specifically, I don't know if you maybe want to talk about that, and then we can go on and hear from Phil about some of them as well.
Just quickly about the union support services available. We do have the advice and support office manned by our own Jordan Creasy, who's very highly skilled at this. We're able to offer advice and support to students. You can find more information around the advice and support office on our website at rgunion.co.uk. Alternatively, you can engage with that department over Twitter as well. Or you could just send an email even to any one of us, myself, Ross, or Jordan, and we can help point you in the right direction as well. I'll hand over to Phil to maybe talk about the universities ones.
I think all our support services are available online. So that's the inclusion team. If you've got any questions around any support you need around a specific need or disability that you have and want advice around, the counselling team have increased their availability, and it's much easier now in this online world to get an appointment if you need to speak to a counsellor. The same with our help point team through Ask RGU. If you've got a query about anything, that's a really good mechanism for you to ask a question of the university, and it will come into the help point team, and then they will get it to the right place within the university. Our Res Life team is very, very active, particularly around supporting students either who have tested positive for COVID-19 and in isolation, or those self-quarantining that have travelled from afar to be here. So all our support services are available online. We're quite comfortable that students, although we can't deliver at the moment and we're not delivering face-to-face support services in the first instance, that people are able to get in touch with people that can give advice and help people make the right decisions for themselves.
Thank you, Phil. And just on that, if anyone is, well, for all of those who are tuning in, make sure if you've got any questions, you put them in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them. But I think, Phil, specifically around support services, and we say it all the time, but I think the overarching message from the team at the union, and I know from you and the team at the university is just to reach out if you need help. All these support services are there, they're operational. We've also got personal tutors, course leaders. Names do vary across the university, but there is always someone who will be willing to help. So please reach out, whether it's to the university, whether it's to the three of us as your student presidents, or to any members of the union team. We'll all be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely the right message. Just we're quite surprised at well, not surprised, but the move to online from on campus has, in my particular view, is that we've probably been more accessible as services, and people have been able to. But we can only help when someone puts their hand up and says, "Need a little bit of advice, a little bit of help," and we can take it from there.
Yeah, of course. And I think we'll come to you in a minute, Veronica, to talk about some of the teaching and learning practices and how these change. But I think just quickly before we do, this session is about RGU's response to COVID-19. And I think from our point of view at the Students' Union, with our roles of really our primary role is to represent students and make sure students are represented, I think it's been really positive to see how the university has kept the three of us involved, but then also right across our student representative network, from school officers to class reps to our equality champions, to the various different representatives that we have. They've been involved at university, at school, and at course level. So I think that's been really positive. And one of the things that we have been working on with the university is accommodation. So obviously we got the news, or the university decided just before the break, and then communicated that just after the break, that really positively they're going to refund students in accommodation and backdate that refund from the 4th of January up until the point that students either return to campus or their in-person teaching starts, or when they're back in their halls, whatever comes first. So that's really positive. There's also a lot of flexibility when it comes to lease terminations and the period of notice that has to be given, and then also flexibility when it comes to moving in. But you talked briefly about Res Life, Phil. I don't know if you maybe want to touch on some of the other work that's been doing in both RGU accommodation, but then for students who are back and living in Aberdeen.
I think the accommodation thing is that the university has recognised right from the word go that we're trying to make that students shouldn't be suffering additionally from that which the pressures that the whole pandemic has put on them. So the accommodation issue has been one that's been a change in position right from September. Well, actually, right from last March, and then tidying up all over the summer, and then the move back to campus in September, with a lot of people moving to Aberdeen that were living in our own accommodation. And we've recognised this fact that it hasn't got any easier, and because of the changes over December, the government guidance, and certainly with the new lockdown in January, that we were trying to take away pressures and worries from students, their families and loved ones, etc. So I think that which we can control, which is our own accommodation, that lease terminations are hopefully quick and easy and efficient if a student makes that decision, and also the pressure of or the feeling that I've paid for a room up in Aberdeen and I can't use it. It's a complete waste of money. I should be going back and living there. That's not what we want. And we've been able to give assurances to our students that there will be a refund. And it's keep me right on this, Ross, because you're very good on terms and conditions, etc. But that you can get a refund to when face-to-face teaching comes back. So from your lease start date to the time that teaching comes back. So we recognise that we wanted to take that burden of worry away from students, and that's what we've been able to do. We've also been able to, and the Student Union have done a great deal of work working with National Union of Students, etc., to make sure the government understands those that are in PBSAs, that's purpose-built student accommodation, that we haven't actually got control over, that the university doesn't own, and the private rented sector, that there are issues that the university can't control, and that are in other people's hands to do the right thing by students. And hopefully that's changing slightly, and that some of the PBSAs are moving towards the university's position, but we can't guarantee that. But we will advocate on behalf of the students, and your student union are doing that in a really effective way.
That's great, thank you, Phil. And for anyone who would like to find some more information about either what the university is doing for students in their own halls, or what's just some advice from ourselves at the Students' Union for students in PBSAs, the private halls, and also the private rental sector, you can find a link at the bottom of the screen to a page of resources there.
If I could add, Ross, though, if there are any students in Aberdeen that are in a situation where they're self-isolating or they've been tested positive for COVID and they need support and we don't know about them, a bit like we said earlier, our Res Life team are able to help with things like getting essential shopping and just support and just checking on them. So where we know about students, everyone has been contacted by our team to see whether they do need any help. Not everyone does, but some people do need some additional help, and we're able to provide that, certainly in the Aberdeen area. So if you are in that situation and you need a little bit of help, again, just put your hand up and get in touch with us.
That's great, thank you, Phil. And if we come over to you, Veronica, I think probably the biggest impact or the biggest noticeable change for students will be the fact that they're now studying fully online, or in a lot of cases are studying fully online, those that haven't returned to campus. And it is very different. It can mean sitting in front of a screen a lot, sitting at a desk in the one place a lot. So I wonder if you could maybe touch on some of, or what the university's done to address this, and how things are looking for the vast majority of students who are studying from home.
Thank you, Ross. So of course, everything will be slightly nuanced depending on your subject area, but all of our students who are finding themselves predominantly at home studying should find on campus Moodle very clear learning environment. And the good thing is for the university is we've got a lot of experience in delivering, because we have a number of purely online courses that we've delivered successfully for many years. So most of our staff already supported an amount of their teaching online. However, it's now different because, of course, the whole class is online, and lecturers, like students, are having to ensure that they've adapted ways, not just about presenting the content and engaging students in learning, but making sure that students are developing as a learning community. And I really would encourage students to think about how they develop as a community whilst they engage with their online learning. So, you know, since I'm on this chat, I'm going to share some of my personal thoughts and, you know, and tips. I think it's important to be actively part of a class. So if you're coming for something that's online and it's synchronous and you're taking part, well, you know, I wouldn't go to my class in my pajamas. I wouldn't go to my class and try and eat my breakfast while I'm in my class. And actually, I would be there and I'd be present, and people would see me. So I actually think it's a good plan to get up, be ready, and be ready to work and be in the moment. And I would really encourage students to think about putting their cameras on. I appreciate that we've not all got great network. I just upgraded my home stuff last night. Got from Curry's a nice thing to mesh around the house and to get better broadband in all the rooms. But it is something, if you've got the space to do it, it is actually nice to see people that you're speaking with. So I would encourage people to make sure to plan to be present. And then I think the advice that we've got from the sport and the commitment about thinking about staying well, you know, at home, you must think about breaks. Naturally, in a timetable day, there are times where you've got to get up and walk between buildings. We all complain about it if we've got to walk out up along the whole bit of campus, but actually it's giving our bodies a time to get up, to stretch, to move around, to get a little bit of outside sunshine. I know at this time of year it's darker, especially if you are here in the northeast of Scotland. So really would encourage people to plan their study day, to plan to have a break between different kinds of activity, to get outside and make sure that you're in the moment for studying. You know, do all the sorts of things that you would ordinarily do. Now, your teaching and learning should be of I think, a good high quality. I don't think that online learning is necessarily poor quality learning. Obviously, poorly designed learning is poor quality, but I think you'll be satisfied that the learning that we have here is good and high quality online learning. But the key is how you engage with it to make the most of it. Now, Phil talked about student support services, and I think it's really important to flag that we have study support service as well, and that is part of our offer to students. And study support is still available 5 days a week, 9 to 5. And the other thing that I'll add in is Ask RGU. That's a really helpful place where you can go and search frequently asked questions to get information, because sometimes you've got a question that you're maybe not yet sure that you want to ask. If you go into Ask RGU, there's lots of useful FAQs, and that might answer queries you've got. But also in Ask RGU, you can book appointments with the likes of study support, etc., and you can get help on things from maths through to different reading and writing, through to even IT, using some of the more popular packages. So really encourage students that you might not be on campus, but there's lots of different ways of helping and engaging, not just in your school and your course, but in the wider community and the wider services available. So please actively think about that. So having talked about the teaching and learning part, I really hope people are enjoying starting to get ready to study with us, engaging their first few dips into their new modules on Moodle. And of course, we almost begin a year and we're already starting to think, and how are we going to be assessed? It's always in people's minds. And again, that should be very clear on your Moodle modules. You should know very early on how you're going to be assessed. Many of our assessments are, coursework based. Some of them will be, an end of semester assessment. And of course, the plan is all of those will be online. The only very limited exception would be, for example, a clinical thing that has to be done on campus because of the particular facilities. So planning again that we'll have assessments online. Now, before Christmas, we had well over 8,000 submissions made online. So, this isn't new. We had thousands the semester before. And it is true that on one day, we had one glitch of about half an hour where there was a little bit of a wobble on Moodle. So some assessments had to be extended. There was a number of contributing factors to that. And as a precaution, we've put in a number of extra steps in the planning for this semester's assessment. Some of that's very small level detail, but can I tell you that, we've explored what might have happened. We know what the contributory factors were, and we've put in further mitigations. And school timetablers are now actively beginning the planning for the scheduling of semester 2 assessments. They'll have those timetabled by hopefully around mid-February. So the communication out of assessment timetables would hopefully be just with a few weeks later from that. So I hope that touches on a little bit about where we are on the assessment journey.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Veronica. And we'll come back to you in a minute just to discuss no disadvantage. And there's obviously quite a lot of discussion nationwide at the moment, and we see it in the press and things like that around no disadvantage versus no detriment and all these types of things. So we'll come back in a minute, but I think first, if we go over to you, Emmanuel, and you might want to come in as well, Phil, but obviously Veronica touched on it there. Not everybody has the exact resources that they need to study easily online. Not everyone has a laptop, has a good level of Wi-Fi. Not everyone has a quiet place that they can be at home and study. So I don't know if you, Emmanuel, and Phil maybe want to come in and talk about some of the stuff that the university's done to address that and to support students who do need that extra support.
If I could just quickly come in and then let Emmanuel, but we have had examples where people have had no Wi-Fi whatsoever, and we've been able to sort something out for them through our IT. I don't know what they're called, but a dongle or something, or like Veronica's described something she got from Curry's. But we've purchased a few of these things where that can give temporary, where people are particularly struggling, and they in the short term we can sort them out. But again, we need to know about that. But I think Emmanuel's got more information around this sort of stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I was actually going to go to you first before I did say anything. But truly, in terms of this particular topic on digital poverty, there's a current scheme going on within the university where the university is making available devices for those who may be needing them. There's a special page on the COVID-19 response related part of the website where you can find more information about this. And you can put in a request for a device, and the IT department will make do to see how well they can support. But essentially what I'm saying is the devices are there they are available. Well, although at the moment at a limited number, but they are quite available. And then there's already promise that there's continuous lookout for more devices or purchasing more devices to be able to support students with. So, but this is just to encourage anyone who is going through struggling with devices or any internet issues to just get in touch. You can also get in touch with myself, Ross, or Jordan, or any one of us in the union, and we'll do well to point you in the right direction.
That's great. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And we are getting closer to the end of the session now, but we'll maybe come back to you, Veronica, to briefly discuss, well, basically no disadvantage versus no detriment, and what the university is doing around that, because I know that is a question that's on a lot of students' minds at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a very simple explanation. No detriment isn't a phrase we've been using because some policies that got announced quite early on and were called no detriment are a little bit like putting a sticking plaster over a wound, and it's not really addressing the wound that's underneath. So actually our no disadvantage policy, it could be called a no detriment policy, but we've chosen not to do it because whereas some no detriment policies are all about saying you can't get any worse than perhaps your previous average marks as long as you pass, or with other exceptions and caveats, what we've actually done is taken a three-pronged approach. Firstly, we've looked at streamlining the assessments, we've looked at simplifying, and in some cases some have been modified to pass, fail, or whatever, so that we're eliminating any disadvantage with the assessment that's being designed and that students are having to sit. We've then adjusted our policies for extensions and deferrals so that they can take into account wider circumstances, including some of the practical difficulties of working at home. For example, if you're at home and you've got children now that are homeschooling, that then might mean that you can't actually sit an assessment without interruption, etc. So we include wider circumstances for which you can self-certify. So that again was new. And also we adjusted it so that our assessment boards have with them, as part of the evidence, they look at previous performance. So that data on previous performance can be considered by assessment boards, not just in considering a pass-fail, but also in looking at bands of either honours grades or merits or distinctions at masters. So what I would say is that our no disadvantage policy is a form of no detriment policy. Actually, I would like to think it's better and more encompassing than just what you might see in some no detriment policies. Does that give a helpful overview?
No, I think that's great. Thank you very much, Veronica. And as I say, that's us kind of drawing to the end of the session, but I wonder if we maybe want to go around the panel, if there's any other topics you'd like to discuss, anything that I have forgotten to mention so far. We've not had any more comments come in yet, or if there isn't, then just one piece of advice that you would give to students this semester. We will start with you, Phil.
I think it's don't be hard on yourself. It's a couple of pieces of advice. Don't be hard on yourself. To look after yourself, and like us always say, look after each other. And if you do need some help, reach out. Just ask for some advice, whether that be around something personal or more academic. Reach out. If you're worried about a piece of work or an assessment coming up or anything, just reach out to someone and ask for help.
That's great. Thank you, Phil. We'll come to you, Jordan.
Yeah, so I think my one piece of long-standing advice for the week has been focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do. If something pops into your head and you're like, I wish I could do that, I can't do that at the moment, try and shift it to, well, what can I do instead? What can I focus my attention on and turn negatives into positive? And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but even if you can turn 8 thoughts out of the day into can-dos rather than can't-dos, that's a benefit. So yeah, I'll get ripped to shreds for saying it, but focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do.
That's great. Thank you. Veronica?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Jordan that one of the things we've got to do is recognise there are many things we can't control. So we need to know what we can control. And like Phil says, we need to take early steps to get help, to get assistance, or even just to be informed. And maybe that's the thing that I would say is in the early point of a course, it's time to make sure that you understand what have you got to do this semester? What are the assessments you're going to be sitting? How are you going to be graded? You know, if you're a master's student, how do we calculate merits, distinctions? If you've got any queries or concerns right now, especially as you get marks back from semester one, if you had already started, then go and speak and get early advice. Don't wait for months and months before you get advice. Take early steps.
That's great. Thank you very much. Come to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Ross. I think I'll just really try and reiterate what Veronica said there. If there's a time at all to do anything, the time is now. There's no point wasting time at all, especially if you're a new student, even returning students as well. If you need information, there's no such thing as a stupid question or you're asking a silly question or you don't know. That's why the university has support services there. That's why, you know, the staff are working. That's why the union is available. Ask, get in touch, and, you know, find out what you need to on time. So you don't, you know, have it like when it's almost too late. That's pretty much my advice. And, you know, like Jordan would always say, keep a positive mindset, stay active, healthy body, healthy mind. I'm saying this because I managed to go out today and do some really early morning exercises. So I'm just taking advantage of my activity in the morning, just encouraging everyone to do the same as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today, and thank you to the panel for joining us. Refreshers Week isn't over yet, so there's still some more activities coming up later today. You can find them all over on the RGU Union website, rgunion.co.uk/refreshers. Some highlights from the rest of the day. In just 2 minutes' time, RGU Sport have their live class, so make sure you go over and take part in that. Later on this afternoon at 5 p.m, you can join RGU's innovation team for their virtual escape room. Our Computing Society have their refreshers session at 6 p.m. And of course, last but not least, the most exciting event of the week, Rebel Bingo, tonight at 7 p.m. So thank you so much to everyone, and I hope you have had a great Refreshers 2021. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Keep up to date with the latest news and activities from the University and the Students' Union by connecting with us across social media.
Find out about our latest projects and take part in competitions and challenges. Get in touch if you have any questions or queries about life at RGU.
You'll also find our team of student presidents and vice presidents on Instagram for regular campaign updates, photos and videos.
So log on, connect with us, and make sure you stay in touch with the RGU digital community.